Good afternoon. Welcome to Flower School Live at a destination. We're off-site. It's a little bit tricky. We'll have lots to talk about because just like doing a destination wedding or any destination event, there are challenges that come up. So my first question to you, those of you that have already logged in, can you hear me? Is the sound good? Let us know if we need to be louder, quieter, move the microphone, adjust it. We're outside, so we're having to deal with the fact that there is a little bit of a breeze that can affect the sound. You'll hear traffic going behind me because we're close to a road. We left today at about 11:30, 11:45 today and headed out to King's Raven Winery. So that's why I have my travel coffee cup this time and a thermos full because I still need it. But since King's Raven Winery, for my Perrier, I've got a pretty glass instead of the can. I thought that was kind of fun. But as everything changes and evolves and there's always surprises, when we got to the winery, we didn't have strong enough connection to the internet world, so we had to relocate. So we're actually about 5 minutes away from the winery right now. We came to Maurice's friend's house, Joey, because she lives right near the winery. So we just came here and we've got a cord coming down from her window down to equipment so that we could be streaming. It has been just so much fun to get everything ready. So I've got Marisa here with me. She's watching your comments. Parker's here running technology and watching comments. What's going on out there? Anything that I need to be aware of?
Well, it sounds like everyone can hear you perfect.
Ooh. Oh, and I just dribbled coffee down the front of me. Another problem with being remote is I don't have my regular cup. Oh my God.
Can hear you fine on Facebook and YouTube.
Oh, good. So both are working. Excellent.
I just might hear cars going by.
You're going to hear cars. You're going to hear breeze. You might hear a dog. Who knows? But, that's part of the fun. I'm actually going to work from my clipboard today because I have been making so many things getting ready that it's just kind of making me crazy. So I brought my glasses and I've got my clipboard. I have our playbook with all of the rundown, who's doing what and where they are. Teacher Michelle and Teacher Carolyn are back at the vineyard right now, still working on the installation because we're getting ready to do the final shoot of the wedding ceremony class that we are putting together. So we've done 3 destinations in the last couple of weeks, and this will be the last one, and it's wedding at the vineyard, and we'll also be doing a reception at the vineyard. So they're working very, very hard to get everything that we created and filmed installed so that we can do the final video there on site. And then I get to just come here and sit with you and drink coffee, answer questions, and chat about life. Let's talk about destination weddings. That's a big deal. Destination events, I should say, they're not always weddings, provide a lot of challenges. And those of you that are professionals, you're aware of the challenge of getting things together. You've got to get all the work done and then keep it refrigerated. Then get it loaded into a vehicle, and you need a vehicle that's big enough. Can you hear the wind chimes? Aren't those beautiful? I love it. So, finding a vehicle. So here I am at 9 o'clock this morning, dashing over to rent a cargo van and get it brought back over to the Creative Center. Then at about 10:30, Parker showed up to start pulling all of the tech gear and getting it loaded because not in the studio anymore. We needed everything for the live, and we also needed everything for the filming. He had to haul and be prepared for any surprises that may occur. Then shortly before 11, Marisa, Carolyn, and Michelle showed up, And Michelle had her car loaded with extra wagons, an ice chest, a pop-up in case we didn't have enough shade. And then we had to load out all the flowers and get that all done. And there was tons of it. And so many flowers that it just took so long. But the cargo van, it was full. And then Michelle's car was full. And then that was a loud car. Oh my gosh. And that's what you have to think about when you do destinations. What if you're at a wedding and all of a sudden during the vows, a car goes by? It happens. Luckily the vineyard is a little further off the street, so weddings there work out really well. Then once you get the car loaded, you've got to drive to wherever. And for us, it was about 25 miles, 30 miles, something like that. And you're worried about things tipping over, water spilling, sudden stops. So I always plan my route very carefully to minimize stops, minimize turns, what's my most direct, and where I can drive a little slower so I don't have to worry about things. And then you get there and you have to offload, and you have to worry, is it hot? Do you have shade? Are the flowers going to live? Is everything going to be okay? Oh my gosh, it's just one thing after another when it comes to getting out. And you got to worry and think and worry. I'll be honest, I was up a lot last night. I didn't stay awake, but I woke up like at 2 o'clock and thought, oh, okay, no, I can still sleep a little longer. I wake up at 3 o'clock. Okay, I can sleep a little longer. Woke up at 4 o'clock, and because I was so excited about doing this. And that's one of the joys and the traumas of being an event florist, is that stress. Oh my gosh, your heart just beats and you get nervous. It's amazing. So questions, anything that has come up in your minds, things that you'd like to know about destination events, things you'd like to know about flower school, things you'd like to know about what we're doing and all of that, go ahead and type it in. Parker and Marisa will verbalize it to me, and then we'll chat and try to answer away. Marisa.
So John has a great question about transporting flowers. Were the flowers in buckets of water, or how are the best ways to transport flowers?
Good question. When we transport to an event, we do have some buckets of flowers. I think we probably had 3 Procona buckets of flowers and 1 smaller round bucket of flowers. But most of the things are already designed. So we had 2 great big oversized urns. They're going to be about 9 feet tall when they're done. Oh my gosh, they're amazing. And all of those were pre-done. They've been flowered, they've been greened, they're ready to go. And so that was with foam and all of that. Then our garlands and such that we needed were just in a box. Then I did have a box of extra foliage just to be able to do things. And then we had another box that was filled with the table settings because we needed napkins and silverware and all of that. Luckily it's a vineyard, so we're using their glassware. We didn't have to schlep any of that with us, which was kind of nice. And then when we got to the location, Shirlene from Danner and Stoley had already delivered a beautiful farm table and an eclectic assortment of wooden chairs for us. So that was all waiting. We didn't have to do anything with that at all. It just was on site, and we just moved it into position. And Darren at the vineyard had a huge tent already set up for us so that we had that ready to go, so everything would be shaded. So yes, we do put in buckets of water. Marisa is an amazing vehicle loader. She has done so many events, and so she's basically works Tetris to get it all in there perfectly and making sure that nothing can tip over and nothing can slosh around and nothing bumps too much. I had a couple of things that I had put into arrangements that were a little bit wider than I was comfortable, so I pulled those out so that they didn't get damaged on the sides, and then we just put them back in when we got there. All kinds of stuff like that. Any other questions?
One just came came up from Drake, as we all know how much he loves Halloween. He wants to know if we can start talking about and or doing fall/Halloween lives early for those with retail spaces to source product and goods to sell these phenomenal ideas.
That's a very good idea. Drake, I hadn't really thought about it. I know we do the live on Halloween at the last minute, but it might be good to try to do a live ahead of time. So we will have a staff teacher meeting and discuss that and determine when it might fit in, because that's an excellent idea so that you could plan ahead. I can tell you, if you go to the Floral Design Institute resource library and type in Halloween, there are several videos there that show you how to make spider webs, show you some different things in there, some pumpkin arrangements. So if you go to Floral Design Institute Resource Library, search Halloween, you can get some inspiration there. But yeah, we'll talk about seeing if we can do that. Now, another thing that you want to think about when you're doing an off-site destination event is a bit of self-care. You've got to be prepared to take care of yourself. We knew we were going to be off-site and working for a very long day. I'm thinking everybody's going to be working 9 or 10, maybe even 11 hours. It's going to be a very long day. And so we have to be prepared for that. And my advice to you when you are doing these events and these big things, make sure you plan ahead for self-care. Take extra coffee. Make sure you have lots of water. Make sure that you have cooling devices. Maybe you want a fan, maybe you want misters, maybe you want things just to put around your neck so that you don't get overheated. Make sure you have sunscreen. Marisa.
So speaking of all of these self-care items and must-haves, Marjorie wants to know if there are any must-have tools that you should have in your toolbox.
I have that question too from Debbie. What's in your panic toolbox? What's your...
Okay, our go-to for the toolbox. Okay, from Parker and Marisa, and so YouTube and Facebook, we have a very, very, very large toolbox, and in there are all your basic floral supplies. So we have, you know what? I'm going to give you a quick answer, but you know what? We should do a toolbox live. So somebody take note of that. We need to do a toolbox live, and we'll actually open it on camera and go through it. But it has all the floral necessities, and then it has all the actual tools, and there's multiples of each. Clippers, shears, knives, and then it has the little things that you might need, like wire cutters, hammer, screwdrivers. You never know. And then I have lots of hooking devices, clamps, S-hooks, bind wire, zip ties. Oh my gosh. Then we have a secondary set of supplies that we take with us that include drop cloths, brooms, rakes, hand vacuum cleaner, all of the cleaning things that you need. And we also take paper towels, Windex, all of that type of thing. Then other self-care that we take is a cooler full of snacks. And we try to do healthy things as well as some sugar. I did get cookies because I feel like everybody needs to have cookies. But then we have peanut butter, we have bread, we have bananas. We've got things that are good for us to keep ourselves healthy. Anything else on that wavelength from you guys?
Well, this question from Diane, I find is quite essential here. As a professional, she wants to know if we ever turn down a job because it may be too far or too difficult to manage.
Excellent question. Should you ever turn down a job? Yes. You know your limitations. You know your capabilities. And if there's something that you don't think you can do well, you're wise to say no and refer it elsewhere. If it's something you think you can learn, or if you think that you can hire someone to assist you to do it well, then God bless you, do it. But if you are not sure you can do it, say no. And that's one thing that I encourage people to do is to practice. Do a photo shoot so it's not for a real situation. That way you're learning while you're also building collateral for your portfolio and practicing. So if you're going to do something oversized and huge and fabulous, go ahead and invest in yourself and do it ahead of time. It's going to cost you money. It might be $500, it might be $1,000, but it's an investment in yourself, and it's vitally important. You might work in a collaboration with a photographer, so you get really great photos. You might work with a caterer, but practicing ahead of time so that you can say yes is wise. You don't want to say yes if you're not sure you can do it or if you can figure it out. I think that's pretty important. Other thoughts like that? Yeah?
What about extreme heat?
Oh my gosh, heat. You know, this one, it's warm here. It's going to get to about 80. So we came prepared with misters to cool the flowers down, cool ourselves down. One of the last destination weddings I did was down in Grass Valley, California, which was so hot. It was over 100 degrees, and the wedding was set out in full sun. And they had two great big arrangements in full sun that they wanted there for pictures ahead of time. And it was so dang hot. And then the ceremony was in a glamorous barn, but the glamorous barn wasn't air conditioned, but at least it was shaded. But we just misted everything. We kept it wet, 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 wet. Because when you miss something and it's wet, the evaporation is a cooling process. We managed to keep everything alive. And then clothing-wise, until I sat down to be on camera, we're all sleeveless so that we're a little cooler because we don't want to be quite so hot. But we got to be able to kind of go with it, you know? So another thing that we bring when we come on site, a little bit of levity. And this is something that I have done frequently, and it's kind of silly. And some of you from AIFD know this. If you're an AIFD symposium attendee, you've seen me arrive with Barbie. Yeah. So Barbie comes on all my destination things. This is the first Barbie that I ever got, and it was sent to me by Jackie Smith-Johns, a fellow AIFD friend, and it was a Target specific Barbie that came out, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. You might have one. But Barbie came to me, and then Barbie started going to all the AIFD symposiums, and when I would go to the grocery store, Barbie would go with me. When I got on the airplane, I had Barbie, and it just makes things fun. So Barbie had to come today to the vineyard. So after I got this one, just through the mail, unexpected, and I don't know who brought it or how it came to me, but somebody in Colorado sent me a vintage Barbie. And so now I had two. I had Target Barbie and I had vintage Barbie, which is just too much fun. And a little backstory that can make you giggle. I was very carefully keeping these all in their packages, and every time I'd go somewhere, I'd open the package and take this one out with me, and this one stayed at my desk. And so at the Creative Center, well, Darren, who will be with us in a little bit, his daughter Haley and my niece Haley would come play. We would have play dates at the Creative Center because Darren would be working with David on technology, and Haley and myself, yes, two Haleys, would just have play dates. Well, needless to say, my packaging is no longer pristine because between the two Haleys, they would be ripping into all the Barbies. So we have the two different ones. Then, just to give you a little bit more fun, in the mail, about a month ago, I got a newest Barbie. This is Flower Shop Barbie, and it's a huge thank you to one of our super tulips, Brayson. So Brayson, if you're out there and listening, yes, I got Flower Shop Barbie. and she came with us to the vineyard because she needs to. Now, this Flower Shop Barbie is a lot smarter. This one, notice the high heels? Oh my goodness. Not good for walking around in a vineyard.
Wait a minute, what about cutting wood in high heels and a fabulous dress on? I don't know.
Okay, I'm busted. So I'm this Flower Shop Barbie. But today, I am this Flower Shop Barbie in sensible shoes. See, I have my clogs on so that I'm prepared to be in a vineyard working. So Brayson, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for sharing Barbie with me. I'll sit her down here too. So we have a little bit of fun when we do all these things, which makes it really, really, really grand. Another thing that makes it fun is to always work with friends. So we've got the whole crew with us. We didn't try to do it by ourselves. Parker, Marisa, Carolyn, Michelle, they all came. And then the vineyard, where we're doing all of this, King's Raven Winery, is owned by Darren and Tanea, friends of ours for years and years and years. And in fact, I had to giggle because in my Facebook memories came up, we had been at the vineyard for dinner 9 years ago, last week. And I thought, oh my gosh, here I am, going back to the vineyard again, just a week later. So very much fun. So Darren, I think you're over there. Let's have you come join us. I'll move some things around a little bit. We don't need all this stuff on the table.
Well, hello.
Hi
Good to
there.
see you.
Oh, you brought your shirt.
Right,
Whoa, and a bottle of wine. How grand.
Thanks for having me.
Look at the vineyard label. Isn't that great? King's Raven. Now, it's amazing how the vineyard has evolved and grown. How many acres? Is it acres? Is that how you talk about vines, or how many vines? What is it?
Yeah, acres. And so we have 15 acres of grapes. We do more of an old world style, not conventional farming, so more of a natural approach that starts in the stewardship of the lands and carries through, making the wine.
Cool. Now, it's interesting because when we were over there 9 years ago, they were just building out the whole event area and getting it ready, and it had such promise because the vineyard looks out over this hillside and it's just glorious. It's absolutely amazing, and when we get some video from there, we'll share it with you all because it is beautiful. And we're going to be there as the sun starts to set, and it's magical. Now, 9 years later, there's a beautiful event set with tinting for the reception and a solid area for the ceremony, grown bushes, the grapevines are filled in, and the grapes right now are gorgeous. I understand you're harvesting next week?
Yeah, our earliest grapes usually come on sometime a little bit after Labor Day, but here in the Pacific Northwest, we've been experiencing a drought. This year, that drought has lasted from March pretty much until now, so everything's starting a little bit earlier, but fruit quality looks great, and we hope for a great, wonderful vintage.
I love it. Now, if any of you are wanting to try any of the King's Raven wines, we have operators on hold. No, the easiest is to just do it by email, because every state's a little bit different, and that way they can communicate with you. We can only do it domestically, so Canadian people, sorry. Singapore, sorry. Mexico, sorry. Sweden, sorry. Iceland, sorry. I know we've got all of you out there, but domestically, yes, they can ship wine out. And they have so many amazing things. One of my favorites is the rosé, and it comes in a pop top, which just makes me giggle.
Well, you remember all the, wine coolers from the 70s and 80s. It's time to bring it back. Trends reinvent themselves, and we're taking a little bit different approach. But basically a half bottle with a pry-off top. We're not going wine cooler, it's just regular wine, but the sparkling rosé is definitely on trend these days, and I think we have one of the best around.
It is grand. I will be honest, there's some in my refrigerator at home right now because I like that one. And anybody out there, if you have questions for Darren before he has to leave, go ahead and type it in, because he's in the know about grapes and wines. And a question I have for you, when you do events and you get the brides and grooms and guests and such, they get so excited, they're out of control. We've all met a bridezilla or a groomzilla.
Sure.
Any tips on how to best work, to calm themselves down? Anything that you've seen that you'd like, oh man, this person did a great thing. Drink the wine first.
That goes a long way, of course. But having an on-site day of event coordinator, even if it is somebody outside of the wedding party, I think is critical. Definitely the mindset of DIY is also on trend. But this is a day that you want to take a break for yourself. So managing the whole wedding yourself, I would say the best tip I could give is tap somebody, whether it's paid for or not, to be that date of coordinator.
I would have to agree.
Yeah.
That day of person that doesn't really have other responsibilities other than coordination. Because if it is the caterer, they're so busy catering.
Right.
And if it's the florist, they're so busy flowering. And the event itself, the facility, is so busy just keeping the facility going.
Yeah.
You can't be a coordinator.
And your vendors come in at different times, the photographer, the DJ, all of that happens at a different time. So you can plan all that stuff, but just designate somebody else. But then, yes, crack a bottle, have some wine, and enjoy the rest of the event and the day,
It's funny because walking through the vineyard and getting things, I was reminded about wearing sensible shoes.
Yes.
And in weddings, do they still show up in high heels even though they know it's outside?
They absolutely do, and part of our natural stewardship of the land, though, means that we don't use any pesticides or herbicides, so the ground may be a little bit more uneven at our place, but we're firm believers of not using those elements. The ecosystem is what it is and has its own harmony and balance, so part of that is wearing flats while you're at an outdoor event, I think.
I love it. Just sometimes common sense isn't quite there.
Right.
I love it.
Yeah.
So, Marisa, what questions do we have?
Okay, Darren, so John has a question for you. So for florists setting up at your venue, do you have any etiquette tips?
It's no matter what time you're coming in, early or late, your first impression is the most important with the venue and the coordinator, and that will set the tone, I think, for the rest of your experience there working with your client. And you definitely don't want to set, a bad tone in between any of those relationships. So even if it's the parking attendant, put your best foot forward and be humble and kind. Everybody is in that 11th hour, panic mode, and it's helpful to. I always put myself in the shoes of Mr. Rourke from Fantasy Island. If anybody remembers that show, where you're trying to make people's dreams come true. So be a part of that and a good steward of that.
That's a great answer, because oftentimes we do get caught up in our own trauma and our own turmoil. And I know I do as much as the next person. I'm like, I'm going to freak out. And I'm like, no, calm down, take a breath. Nothing's going to be unsolvable as long as you plan ahead and be nice, because there's always somebody that can help you if they like you. But if you just shoot them out, they're not going to help you.
In this day and age of GPS, we all think we can fly in just in time, I think, sometimes. So, doing a site visit beforehand, and like you said, be prepared, plan. That, I think those are some of the key elements of success.
True. Cool.
I have a question.
Hey, Parker.
What's the chain of communication like in terms of between the florist and the person getting married and you guys, in terms of is the guest the one saying, we have these flowers, do you have a cooler for us? Which way are they going in, or does the florist contact you at some point and work through that with you?
Again, I think pre-event site visits are paramount to this question. Many sites are completely different and may not have capacity for cooling. if you arrive early. So once the schedule has been set, I think no matter how advanced to your scheduled time that you want to be there, so you're not late. You still have to account for that there may not be a cooling capacity or a staging area for you until the actual time that you've been scheduled to be there. So try to think of those things ahead of time. Am I going to need a place to stage and cool flowers and keep things out of the way? As far as point of contact, again, you're probably going to meet a parking attendant first at many of these events at wineries. And so, get your best direction, but if you've done that pre-visit, you already know where to go. And you can actually be more helpful to the parking attendant and say, hey, I'm the florist, I'm supposed to go right here.
So then, do you still have some dates available for events this summer or into the fall? Or?
For us, we're booked already. Harvest is about to start, and it's tough for us to juggle both of those. We do have a dinner coming up with the Portland Secret Dining Society. And this is one of those deals where they don't tell you where it's going to be, so maybe I'll let the cat out of the bag, but I think it's already sold out for this dinner, but that's something we're really looking forward to. We do have a couple of club events during harvest, like a grape stomp, and I would personally like to invite you to come and stomp grapes with us.
I think we should.
Yes.
I want to do that.
Oh my gosh, so we're going to have, company party. Great
Yeah.
job. I love it. How great is that?
Speaking of that, do you allow visitors? Like, are you open for wine tastings and?
We are. We're open every week, year-round, Friday through Sunday, except for the major holidays. So July 4th, Memorial Day, and Christmas, and Thanksgiving. However, we're open by appointment also, so if you want to take a site visit and scope the land out, just give us a shout, and we'll be happy to set an appointment to meet with you.
So if you want to look at the website, it's kingsravenwine.com. If you would like to order any wine, it's the email is info@kingsravenwine.com. And Susie in Caledonia, if you guys can put that in there so that people can have it, because I know we do have quite a few local people as well. And so you can visit the vineyard Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays. If you are looking to book an event, you probably are booking for next year already.
Absolutely, and even a couple years out isn't, I think, not common these days because of everything that's going on. You kind of have to have a contingency. What if things change currently? And so we're happy to take a look at the calendar for next year and go from there.
I know that outside weddings are the thing because with COVID, everybody's doing that. So I know as we were doing our filming for the wedding ceremony class for the wedding floral specialist, it was vitally important to me to make sure we included outdoors because that's where people are getting married. And you probably have discovered that too, that destinations are a big deal and being outside is a big deal. And then having backup plans. Do you have a rain plan? Do you have a snow plan? Do you have a heat plan? What happens when the wind comes up? Other questions, Marisa or Parker?
I have a couple. Robin actually wanted to know how your business held up during the pandemic. And then also Julia wants to know what your best seller is.
Thankfully, the local community has really stepped up, and I think I've heard stories nationwide and internationally that's been the case. Think about that tourism basically for such a tourist-driven activity, going wine tasting, was pretty much cut out of our business last year. So we are very thankful to all of the local supporters that continue to support us. But with the slight break in the pandemic that we did get this last couple months, we've had visitors hailing from Israel and Europe and Asia. So I think there's definitely some demand for that to return. And so the future is bright. We've been at this over 20 years now, growing grapes. Our family's been stewards of this particular piece of land in Oregon since 41. So
Just a little while.
we're not going anywhere, is what I'm trying to say. We're going to be here after the pandemic and during the pandemic, and there are ways to work around and with all of those conditions. So I would encourage people to come out and check with us. There's something that will fit with today's rules and regulations. But more importantly, what is our best-selling
What's
wine?
your best-selling
Yeah.
wine? Yeah. Inquiring minds want
Yeah.
to know.
Well, truth be told, our top seller is our Pinot Noir. This is Oregon country, and Oregon is known for Pinot Noir, and that's the bottle I brought for you today. However, we do focus on some heirloom varieties that are very obscure and rare. And so right behind Pinot Noir, our top seller is our Marshall Foch.
That one is David's favorite. So
Yeah.
those of you that know David, that's the one. In fact, I've got a couple bottles sitting at home.
Yeah. So one of the challenges here in the Willamette Valley for growing grapes is it usually is on the body spectrum, light body reds, maybe medium body reds with different varieties that we can grow here. But some of these heirloom hybrid French American hybrid grapes allow us to grow bigger, bolder wines right here in the valley. So while Pinot Noir is definitely Oregon country, Marshall Foch, or Leon Milot and Chalois, and Pinot Gris are all in the mix. Yeah.
I know when we were out a month ago or 2 months ago, whatever, I had a white wine that was amazing. Was it Phoenix?
Phoenix, a German American hybrid grape. Yeah, very
that was
interesting.
delightful.
But I gravitate to this. I was put in contact with a local co-op grower that, basically like old world Europe, the whole community would come together and pick the grapes and make wine, and everybody gets a share. And he was growing this Phoenix and several of the other heirloom varieties, and Phoenix is somewhat similar to a Sauv Blanc, and Sauv Blanc is quite popular. In fact, we've planted some Sauv Blanc in this last winter cycle, so we're excited to move in that direction. But yeah, Phoenix is a fantastic grape. As far as we know, we're the only winery commercially working with that grape in the entire U.S.
Oh, wow, that's exciting.
Yeah.
So last questions for him, but I have a question for you. Okay. How many of you have actually done events at a vineyard? And let's narrow it down to in the last 5 years. So it could be pre-COVID and during COVID and now, which is not truly post-COVID. But if you've done in the last 5 years an event at a vineyard, and if so, how many? Type it in just because we're curious. I would love to know. And then if you do have a question, Parker and Marisa will be watching for that. And then we'll kind of keep going. Any questions from them right now that we need to do?
They are asking if you could just mention the names of your wines again.
Oh, sure.
Because it was skipping.
Sure. So we do Pinot Noir on the reds and Marshall Foch, Leon Milot, Chalois, and then for the whites, we're currently growing Phoenix, which is a German American hybrid, Pinot Gris, Chardonnay, Gewürztraminer, and Riesling, and then that newest addition is some Sauv Blanc.
Cool. Other thoughts, questions?
It looks like Lynn did a rehearsal dinner at a small vineyard, about 50 guests. It was fabulous.
How many people do you normally have size-wise at yours?
Our max is 300,
Wow.
and we have had some weddings of that size before, but I think for guests included on the experience side, the magic number definitely seems to be between 100 and 150. there's not only like the dinner service issues. A larger group just means tougher to get out that much food for everybody, and changes your options for buffet versus plated. Food trucks are super popular, but another pro tip, food trucks can be tough because they're single service kitchens.
And so if it's
everybody's waiting in line for food. Yeah. But I would say definitely, aim for a better experience. We all have, moms and aunts and uncles that want to invite the entire list, but maybe you can do a second reception or something like that for the day. I don't know.
Group A and Group B. Yeah. Sorry, you got into the B group. Yeah.
Are you able to share just generally how you make the wine?
Sure. Great topic, and I love to share this. Again, back to the natural approach, or more of a classic French style of making wine. We, believe it or not, stomp all of the reds with our feet, including the rosés. Whites go directly into a press. We have an ancient, by today's standards,
Why?
60s German press. It's vintage. It's this old German press.
So how come you press it and not stomp it?
For the white wine, we just
Your
want
foot,
the juice.
you don't want the feet in the white,
Is that what it is?
The red overpowers.
Is it different?
Well, red wine is made in a different way. All of the skins and stems and seeds are fermented together, and that's what gives it not only color but flavor. For white wine, you just want a fruitier kind of expression, and whether then you use oak or a wood addition, that will help complement the white wine, but typically you're aiming for a more fruitier profile. So, the whites go straight into the press, squeeze out the juice, and then into a tank for fermentation. And it really is basic chemistry. So, it's a lot of fun over the years. Since I've been at this for 20 years now, you start off with the little chemistry kit and measuring everything. But you learn just like a good chef or baker, I think.
Florist.
Or florist. A pinch here, a twig there, in addition there. You learn to evaluate everything with your senses. And so you can taste, the pH, you can taste the sugar, you can taste the alcohol, and lots of you can incorporate all of your senses, believe it or not, into making wine. And I think that grape juice on your feet is part of that sensory evaluation.
So I think we have to do that. It just sounds like too much fun.
Yeah.
I love it. So any questions, because I know Darren's got to get back to the vineyard and we'll be doing a little more wrap up here. Any last minute questions for Darren before he disappears? Okay. I just want to thank you so much for coming and shedding some light on what it all means.
Thank you for having us.
This is just too fun. And then we're all going to be back there in just a little bit.
Good. We'll talk about the date, but make the plan. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, grand. Okay.
Well, that's for you. And we'll see you soon.
Grand. Thanks for coming.
Take care.
Thanks, Darren.
Thank you.
So, what's going on right now? Let's fill you in. Right now, Michelle and Carolyn are finishing building a curly willow arch that's part of the ceremony, and they're finishing adding flowers to all of the chairs to create the aisle decor, and they're finishing a full waterfall feasting table so that it cascades down the side and just looks amazing and fabulous, and they're finishing guest directional signage. And they are finishing enhancing the getaway vehicle, which is a vintage truck that's at the winery as well. So it's a crazy busy time there.
So Nina was asking when they can see the pictures of the vineyard and the flowers.
You won't be able to see pictures of the flowers because they're going to go directly into the program. You will be able to see them and have the full how-to video and such if you are part of the Wedding Photo Specialist ceremony class. We will have some preview teasers, obviously, but we're not going to show it on the live, although I will tell you, this right here is one small segment that is going on the feasting table. So I guess this gives you a little bit of a clue of what's going to be there. But as far as the full spectrum, not going to put that out there because that's all part of the program and it's reserved for those students. But we had to have a little teaser so you could see what it is and how we're doing that. Now, one last tip that I want to share with you is planning ahead. And I'm going to pull my little sheet out here. With what does planning ahead mean? Okay. Planning ahead meant we had a 2-page playbook that each of us has that goes through exactly what's going on. It lists the address where we're going so that if anybody got lost, they knew how to get there. It listed that I was picking up the cargo van at 9:30, that 11 o'clock we're loading the vehicles, 12 o'clock we'd be at the vineyard, 1 o'clock we'd offload, 2 o'clock set for live, 3 o'clock live, 4 o'clock we all go back, we finish, 6 o'clock we start filming. With any luck, please, 7:30 we strike and head for home, and 9 o'clock we offload and be done. So it's a pretty precise timeline. Then we have the task. What needs to be filmed, what needs to be photographed, who's doing what, and in what order. Okay? Then we all have GPS on our phones and we all have, maps that tell us how to get somewhere. But you never know when you might end up someplace that you don't have a connection or that it just quits. So I always take and type it all off and make it great big so that I can see it while I'm driving in case my thing quits giving me navigation. Because the worst thing that could happen is you get going and you don't get to the location you're supposed to be at. We've all heard horror stories of the florist that went to the wrong location or the florist that didn't get to the location. And then planning ahead means also planning extra time. Darren mentioned about don't just show up at the last minute. Show up early. Be prepared. That way maybe you can sit down and have a glass of wine. You never know. But make it so that you get there early. What happens if you have to stop and get gas? The cargo van I picked up today didn't have enough gas in it. I had to stop and get gas. It wasn't on my timeline. I mean, really, what are the odds of that? But I had allowed extra time, so I stopped and got gas, and I didn't cry very much. What if there was a flat tire? Oh, please, no. No flat tires. But you never know what could happen. I will tell a story on one of our graduates. I won't say the name because I don't have a permission, but he was delivering a wedding clear up by Mount Hood, so we're talking, a good 50, 60 miles away, and he did get a flat tire, and he was in the middle of nowhere, and he couldn't get AAA or anybody to get there to rescue him in a time frame to get the wedding out. But he's personal friends with Teacher Beth, and Teacher Beth lives out that direction, so he's texting Teacher Beth to bring her van and pick up the flowers and trade him cars. So she waited for AAA. He took her van and went and delivered. So who's your go-to person? No, the teachers are not waiting for your call. But you need a go-to person in your life so that if something does go wrong, just like today when we got to the vineyard and we couldn't do live at the vineyard because it wasn't strong enough, Marisa had already talked to her friend to make sure that this was an okay backup plan because it's just 5 minutes away. How cool is that? So planning ahead, thinking about all the things that can go wrong, and then troubleshooting your way through. Parker, do you have something there from YouTube?
Well, I was just going to add from my catering and filming days, especially up here where you don't have service, it's great to just know where the nearest emergency room is, gas station, grocery store, and just print them out, know where they are, because
that is a great idea because you don't know what you might need last minute because there is always something. I'm reaching down here to get my roses because I wanted to be able to share these with you today too. So I'll set them out here. Do those show on camera?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Keep the wine there too. Gotta keep King's Raven happy and me happy because that's my bottle. Yay! That's a great, great, great reminder though. We start taking things for granted sometimes, and I can remember, in fact, we were coming to Darren's winery, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago, something like that. And it was before I had a smartphone. But I thought, it's okay. I'll look up the address and I'll just leave it up on my iPad and I'll be able to look at it. And then it dawned on me, oh, but I don't have connection, so it's not going to be on my iPad either. And so I had just wished that I had taken a picture, or that I had written it down, or I had done old school and printed it off. But knowing where the grocery stores, where the emergency rooms are, where there's a gas station, and then having your list of people you can call on to assist. Always have more people than just you. I think that would be my next bit of advice. You know, planning ahead and being prepared. Don't go alone, because you never know. And so even though you maybe could do it by yourself, having one other person that is available, maybe they're not with you, but they're available by phone, they can get to you, they can assist, so that if something goes wrong, if there's some tragedy, you're not there by yourself. You can get someone to help, enlist a little extra help there, because that does make a difference. I'll do a quickie review of the course so that you can know what it is we're doing. And I wanted to show you the roses. The roses that we're using, you can see it's primarily fire colors. In the course, we've got 3 destination locations that we've gone and set up. One was done all with white, so it's very pure, very pristine, very formal, and it was done in a formal garden, which was really great. Another one was done with a bit of blush, but a lot of apricot and going into corals, so it was very peachy and a touch of blush. So it gave you sort of that middle color palette, and that was done in an urban setting where so many people are getting married in a little more gritty city type location. And then this one with the fire colors done in a vineyard. The roses that we used, the red, not very fragrant, is called Hearts, and it's a hugely ruffled rose with a very, very high petal count, and opens beautifully. Here's one that has opened a little bit more, so you can see how it opened out. And it's still beautiful as a bud as well, because it's not really a tight bud. When you buy them, they're still kind of like this. So Hearts was my deep of the burgundy red that we worked with. Then the next, the darker of the garden roses, these were from Garden Roses Direct, and this one is called Sunset, and it too has a very high petal count, deeper red on the back side, reddy orange, and then orangey coral going into a lighter peachy orange in the center, and it opens into a flat face that gives you a lot of coverage very quickly, and it truly gives you that spot that works well with red, kind of transitioning across that analogous color palette, and they hold well. Notice how strong and straight these stems are. I recommend, if you're doing an event, getting them in a good 5 days early. These roses actually came in on Friday of last week. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 6 days ago. And have been mostly kept at room temperature so that we could get them to open out. And they're holding great. But giving yourself time to get them open so you don't have that panic of, how do I get my flowers open? You know, we get that call a lot. Then we went to a lighter orange. And this one is called Free Spirit. And it actually goes to almost a golden center, taking it a step further in that analogous color palette. And it too opens out beautifully and just holds and holds and holds. It opened the fastest of all of the roses, but it hasn't started to fade at all. This was the fastest opener. This was second fastest, and this was the slowest. We had to really kind of baby this one along to get it to open to the fullness that we wanted. And then we have just a few of the very light peachy orange called Carpe Diem, and it gave it just that little bit over, but we didn't do very many of these, just a few, because we wanted to focus on the more intense colors. Then when we swapped from the ceremony to the reception, we added in blues and purples. And we've got some dyed material, Integrifolia, kind of an interesting, okay, Integrifolia, and it's dyed, it's artificially purple, but notice how bold that is. And since it's dried, it just is going to be great. And then we softened that with the Orangium, so it still gave us that purpley blue hue that mixed well with all the rose colors. Okay. So same roses, but taking it out to a different palette, and then bringing in hydrangea to give it even a little more of the purple, which changed it out quite a bit. So it was a nice way to segue from the reception that was all fire hue, or from the ceremony that was all fire hues, to the reception that brought in the purples and such. So all kinds of fun things going on. Marisa, what's happening?
With that heart rose, I'm not sure if our viewers know this, or I don't know if you know, Leah, but do you know why it's called a heart rose?
No, I
Oh
don't.
my gosh, really?
No.
So if you look inside, the petals are shaped like a heart.
They are.
That's why the
Oh
heart
my
roses.
gosh.
Yeah.
So if you look really closely, the center of the rose does look like a heart. How cool is that? Oh my gosh. I just thought it was hearts because it's so beautiful and I love it. But they truly do have a heart shape. How grand is that? Now that one is not a garden rose. It's a traditional rose. The other three were garden. No, this one wasn't a garden rose. These two are garden roses, the Sunset and the Free Spirit. And the other two are just traditional roses. So, okay. Last minute questions. Parker.
I almost forgot to shout out Elaine. Got her advanced certificate in the mail today.
Yay!
Oh, congratulations, Elaine. I had so much fun signing that for you. It brings me great joy when I get to sign off on somebody's graduation certificate and send it. And I don't send it off in the mail. Carolyn usually does. Marisa does sometimes. But I always get to sit down and look at your name and think about you and send you wishes for floral success. And that just makes me happy. And many times I have Barbie sitting with me at the desk because she just makes me happy too. It just makes my day. So Brayson, again, thank you for Barbie. Barbie's on set with us, and now Barbie will go back to the vineyard with us so that we can get the rest of the video done. And we'll probably sit down and celebrate with a glass of wine too. But we'll have one glass because then we all have to turn around and drive home 30 miles and still offload and unload and put everything away. It's going to be a long day. But David wanted to know how it was going. David, now you know it's going great. Everything's going well. And my phone hasn't dinged, and Marisa's phone hasn't dinged, and Parker's phone hasn't dinged. So I'm going to assume... Assuming is bad, but I know that Michelle and Carolyn are doing well too, so we'll all just have grand fun. Thanks for joining us. Next week, we'll be talking about online flower school. So if you've been thinking about it, I'll take you behind the scenes and show you the guts of the program, show you how it works. If you are a student or a graduate, I'd love to have you join us and share your experiences and help answer questions for people, because it is back to school. Next week is September. Can you believe it? Oh my gosh. And then just shortly after that, we actually resume our in-person classes. So I thought we better squeeze this in before we get there. And then we'll have to have a discussion as to where we're going to squeeze in an extra Halloween. But for now, time for me to get to work at the vineyard. Thanks for joining me. Get out there and go do something you love.